What's up YouTube? You're tuned into Graffiti TV. My name's Kato and I'm going to show you how to 3D your letters. Alright, check it out. So I've got two different examples here. First one is a simple 3D, which is the tag or the piece moving in one direction evenly. So the 3D is all the same depth, same direction. Now, second one is more of an extreme perspective 3D. So this is more dynamic, it's lifting up, it's tilting towards us, and it's coming from a smaller space and just punching out of the page. So let's check out the simple 3D first. This one is made up of the beginning. We basically pick a direction, which way we want to send this into the third dimension. So it's all moving in that direction. Then I need to choose how far I want it to come out, how big of a 3D. You can choose whatever amount you want. I've decided to go with a small amount here. So each one of these lines is the same distance from the piece. Now, to add in the 3D, you would basically be copying this edge here down that distance, and you would copy the same thing around the whole entire piece. So you're copying these edges, and that's basically lifting it up into the third dimension. So I have already done that on a layer here, and I'll show you what that looks like. So that's it all added in, and there are certain spots in it where the lines aren't necessarily coming out really obviously. Because the direction is moving that way, this part of the piece here is the same direction. So this line here comes around and joins back into the 2 there. So there are some points where it will do that, like in the D here, it just disappears into it. It doesn't necessarily have a nice sharp edge like that. It can just smoothly morph back into, or form back into the actual letter itself. So once you've done all of that even kind of works like that. I would probably sharpen it up a little bit, but my intention was to add in a bit of color just to punch it out. So that's what I've done there, and that just shows you a solid three-dimensional space pushed out. It's similar to a drop shadow, but because those lines are coming directly off the edge, it is making it a 3D. Whereas a drop shadow is going to completely copy those edges all the way up to the end, and you'll see that it's a shadow and it's not actually pushing out of the piece itself, it's floating behind it. Okay, so the next one is a little bit more tricky, and what I've done here is given it a more extreme perspective. So in the beginning I just picked a direction in which way I wanted to send it. So I knew by doing this, going from small at the bottom to large at the top, it's going to make it look like it's coming out of the ground, it's coming up towards us. Then what I've done, once I know the direction I'm going, I have added in these edges and chosen a depth for each one of them. The ones at the back of the piece that are connecting to the top row of letters, like starting here and here, these ones, they're a bit longer, and what that's doing is that's pushing the top row of letters a little bit higher and tilting it towards us. That distance there is probably twice the distance of this here, so it makes it feel like it's twice as high. So it's a bit more dramatic. And then once I've done that, so the same thing again, I'm going to go back in and copy this edge that it shares with the piece. So that edge there gets copied down to there. So that basically looks like that. I can get rid of these arrows now. So that's all the edges copied down to the bottom, and now you can see it's becoming a solid three-dimensional shape. It's pushing up. It's got a bit of form to it now. Then to push that out even further, what I've done is I've added a power line to the outermost edge of the 3D. that looks like this. So that's just a thicker line going around the outside of the piece. And then what I've done as well is I've come into these little boring spaces. A lot of this dead space in here looked pretty average, and I've just added these little sketchy speed lines. These give you the effect of like a really sharp cliff face, or just a bit more of a dynamic attitude to the piece. It's pushing up a lot faster, and it really just is adding interest to these blank spaces. I think it's a really nice thing to do on large 3D areas. It's a pretty old school trick. And then what I've done as well to even further just develop that space and give it a bit more depth is I've shaded it. And that's just a really simple shading thing that I've added in there just to show you what you can do. There's so many different things that you can add to this three-dimensional stuff. It's really easy to just start adding in more lines. You know, you can really do heaps of stuff. You can really complicate your 3D and make it super crazy if you want to. And it gives you a lot more space to paint and colour and do all sorts of stuff. But playing around with shading and highlighting in these areas and pushing and pulling forms back and forth, depending on how dark or light they are, is pretty fun too. But you can push this 3D in any direction. You can do your extreme perspectives to wherever you want. You know, you could draw a point over here and have all of your lines going back to that point, and then you would do the same thing. You would just copy that letter in here, copy that edge. This is really rough for a second, but just to give you an idea, you know, you can shoot that 3D in any direction you want. And same goes for just the stock standard 3D. You know, you can push that out any direction. Doesn't matter which way you go. And yeah, so that's pretty much it. If you've got any questions or you'd like me to go over anything else, just leave a comment down below, and I'll be sure to answer and help you guys out. And thanks for tuning in. I hope this helped, and get out there and bust out some 3D letters and show us what you got. Alright, peace.